Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's why, some of the savings crisis, retirement savings crisis that we have in the country, the legislation has even allowed certain 401k plans to offer annuities inside of them. So people will have that lifetime income when they go and retire.
And welcome into your game plan for retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning for your financial investment and retirement future. He is president and founder of McIntire Retirement Services. Chris McIntire here with us, our inaugural show of 2026, Chris, and talking about how we can plan for success in the year ahead. How did your 2025 wrap up? And I hope you're off to a good start here, Chris.
Yeah, yeah. 2025 wrapped up. It's good to get it behind us. We had some ups and downs. My wife lost her dad, and some of those types of issues. But we were able to clean up a number of different things, and we changed our business structure to an S corporation. We did installed a 401k plan. So we did a lot of internal things that were very nice. We also moved our office in 2025. Here today, I'm in the Perrysburg office, and so we had a lot of things going on and a lot of projects, and hopefully we don't have that many in 2026. We
Yeah.
just do normal business things.
No, that's a lot to tackle, Chris. And I know that business owners out there always have questions about the structure of the business, the benefits that they need to offer to retain trained and key and important employees. So you are no exception there.
Yep, absolutely. And we got good staff, so we like to take care of them that way. And kind of our goal for 2026 is continue to work inside the business, obviously, and do things better. And we're going to be changing some portfolio structures here to we think which will help returns and whatnot going into 2026 here. Yep, and
So,
just got to remember what year it actually is. You get
right.
so used to it, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm always looking ahead, Chris. I've already written 27 on something. I'm feeling like a time traveler here. A lot of times I get stuck in the past year, but I skipped a whole year there somehow in writing a date already. So, yeah, well, we'll adjust as we always do. And I know that this time of year, a lot of people are trying to figure out how to plan and build for lasting, reliable financial progress and success. And so that's going to be the theme of the show today is we want 2026 to be about execution, not reaction. And, certainly there will be some things that we will react to, some surprises. But overall, Chris, we want to have a solid plan where we are simply executing the steps that we've laid out.
yeah, yeah, without a doubt, we all want to set goals early in the year, and for some people, it's they want to lose weight, they want to eat better. I mean, those are the traditional ones, and in our business platform, we're looking, we're going to focus a little bit more on having more long-term care discussions with our clients. As my mom's in a nursing home, my father-in-law was in a nursing home. A dear friend of ours that we took care of for many years spent a fair amount of time in a nursing home, and so just how many of our clients are completely unprotected from that $10,000 to $12,000 a month cost, and just probably trying to make them more aware of what the options that are out there, because thinking that your kids are going to take care of you 24/7, that can be a challenge, unless you got enough children, but I've got a small family, Robin's got a small family, and those things just aren't possible. But to help defray some of those costs so that people don't have to spend their entire life savings, to care for a loved one in the nursing home, to get some assistance with that from some of the fine financial products and services that we utilize for not only ourselves but for many of our clients too, but to broaden that base, Peter.
Yeah, well, and just to emphasize, Chris, due to no lack of conversation or prompting from you to address this issue, it's just I think dealing with long-term care is one of those things. It's kind of like the will and the estate and the legal documents where people are like, oh yeah, I need to do that. I'll get around to it, and then never do, right? It's tough. And one of the concerted efforts is that in 2026, you want to help clients to be more efficient, to deal with longevity, to deal with income planning, and specifically those healthcare concerns are on the agenda at McIntire Retirement Services this year, ladies and gentlemen. And if those are things that have been on your plate or on your to-do list, or if you'd like to just get a comprehensive plan for your financial and retirement future together, the game plan for retirement, your game plan for retirement, a personalized plan to you with your goals and visions in mind, pick up the phone and give McIntire Retirement Services a call. 419-332-0532. 419-332-0532. Again, 419-332-0532, or visit online McIntyreRetirementServices.com. Chris, we do have some silver linings here for retirees in 2026. Number one, the Social Security benefits did get an adjustment, 2.8% increase for the COLA. And while there is an increase, it does seem like Medicare premiums are at least beginning to level out.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think in 2026, it's going to be a little over $200 a month they take out of your Social Security check. Last year it was about 178, $179, 2025 that is. So, inflation is still things that we're dealing with. And obviously, from the previous administration, we have all that inflation that came in from, overspending right after the, kind of coming out of the pandemic and drove up prices. Well, it's not like prices have fallen back 40%. I mean, they're still elevated from all of that. They're growing a little bit slower, and it's certainly things that people on fixed incomes are going to deal with, and those challenges without a doubt.
Yeah. Segue here, Chris, but it does seem like there are elements of our society, our economy, as much as we'd like to put them behind us, that are still in pandemic and COVID mode. And like the economy, that was a shock to the system that we had really never before seen, or at least not in this generation or the lifetime memory of anyone, where we dealt with a large scale and a global economic shock wave like that. And we're still feeling the ripples like a stone in a still pond. It caused ripples, and we're still dealing with some of those.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, from car parts, it's still the supply chain, and then then we added tariffs into this argument as well too. So there, certainly some major disruptions to the system, and then the government, again, the Trump administration, the first one, the Biden administration came in, tried to, flood everybody with money, if you will, stimulus checks and those sorts of things.
Put a
Uh,
band-aid on it.
yeah, yep, and trying to keep it going there for sure as people were locked down. And I mean, God, it's hard to believe that was, basically coming up on 6 years ago already. And
Yeah.
I think what they did right, what they did wrong, in certain states, obviously, like California and New York just wanted to keep people inside, and where Florida, South Dakota, some of the conservative states, let's call it what it is, certainly relaxed their economies and some of their restrictions, and shot up real estate prices in Florida, as many
That
people here are snowbirds and might be listening to us down south, saw some of their property values skyrocket. And
Yeah, that was a big
so
one that I was thinking about specifically, Chris, is that there has been such an impact on the housing market, which is such a driver to the overall economy. I mean, we were humming along even pre-COVID. The housing market, the interest rates, everything was super attractive, lots of buyers, and then especially when all that money hit and stimulated the economy, and interest rates were still low, people could sell a house without even having to advertise it, and there'd be multiple buyers out there. But then all of a sudden, when rates shot up, like everything sort of came to a standstill. And I think that especially the real estate market, like really reeling and still dealing with the implications, the lasting implications that sort of still kind of stem from that global pandemic COVID 6 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt, Peter. And the housing market in that middle America side of things, which is where most of us live and operate, is somewhat frozen. And interest rates have come down, but when the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates, it doesn't really affect mortgage rates immediately. Those mortgage rates are follow the government bond market, if you will. So and those rates are still hanging in there on 10-year government bonds. a little north of 4%. So, rates have really been pretty stable on the mortgage side. And, the perfect storm happened. Cheap money. People could buy a house that they normally wouldn't have in normal interest rate environment. Now interest rates are more normalized after a run up in housing prices. So, we can make an argument on, all right, should they lower interest rates to make money more affordable? It's like, well, I think houses are probably 25 to 30% too expensive, from a historical perspective. So, they can lower interest rates down. That doesn't solve the problem. The problem is houses are too expensive
Yeah.
from a historical perspective, from things I've read.
Well, plus insurance is now more expensive. Tax assessments are now higher, so it has made that area of the economy again one of the main drivers of the economy that much more difficult and moving a little slower. But back to some silver linings, in order to try to put more money in people's pockets and stimulate. The one big beautiful bill extended these low tax rates. So we know the tax brackets, we know the larger standard deductions, and the seniors over 65 getting that extra Social Security deduction on top.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we're going to get closer into the tax season, we're going to start seeing as you go into probably the second quarter when the refunds really start coming in and people start doing things with them is we may see a significant economic boost as people will have more additional dollars. If you're going to get a $7,000 refund, not everybody's just going to throw that in the savings account. They may take a vacation, they may buy washing machines and dryers and do things like that, spend that money, which goes back into the economy because our economy is 70% consumer spending, about 30% government spending. And maybe it was more than that during the COVID time. It could have been reversed actually. But that's the good thing about some of these, and especially oil prices being down significantly. I got gas, the other day at $2.70 a gallon, which is pretty reasonably priced for here in Ohio. And, nothing against the politics of this, but hell, I was paying almost $4 a gallon, couple of years ago. So, it's nice to have, a broadening out of our energy choices from, people that want to buy an electric vehicle, people that want to buy a hybrid, people that want to stay with the traditional, oil driven cars and trucks and whatnot. We have solar energy coming online. Got this administration's not real big on on the wind side of things, as I don't think that's any big secret. I don't have anything for or against it. More choices, the better they are. And I think some of the new nuclear technologies coming into play with some backing from Google and Microsoft that need energy to run their data centers. And they're not going to do that from solar fields. They're going to do that from splitting atoms in all likelihood, to create that type of electricity that we need for this, new type of artificial intelligence that's coming out that, I think in 5 years, we're going to be looking at an entirely different world than what we live in today in certain respects, on how this artificial intelligence really starts to change our lives and much more things being done virtually. Doctor visits, are, a lot more times done on video and then they call in a prescription, I mean, some things are fairly basic. So, that helps the productivity and all of that. And, I think the administration here, the current one, trying to drive down drug costs significantly. And then, just had all the pharmaceutical leaders there in the White House and, telling them you need to bring the prices down. Why are we paying $150 for a drug that Japan pays $30 for,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
that stuff is very stimulating to the economy, obviously, when you start cutting some of those hardcore expenses.
Yeah, medical costs, as you started the program talking about, Chris, with the long-term care, just can be
Mm,
astronomical. And my
yep,
wife, your wife, we've both seen some health issues, but
yep,
I've been in the pharmacy far too much, in line behind people who are, debating whether they're buying food or medicine that month. And so I think that
yep.
that is an important agenda agenda to be pushing and promoting. Hard to believe, Chris. I mean, we all know Trump makes a whole lot of noise, but hard to believe
Yep.
it has actually been less than a year into his second term here. There's been a lot that has happened, certainly. Another part of that one big beautiful bill that is going into effect for this year, no tax on tips or overtime, and I know that that is within limits, and there's some
Sure.
requirements there, but that is another way trying to kind of boost the money in people's pockets and promote some spending.
Yeah, yeah, and then you take that with like in, the state of Florida, they're trying to, talk about getting rid of property taxes. The state of Ohio, they're talking about some property tax reform. I think they've actually signed some of that legislation. And because if you think about, we really just lease our property that we own from the government that taxes us on it. And as your property values have increased dramatically, so has your property taxes. So,
Yeah.
trying to find that balance between, what's the right amount of money to pay in tax to keep the services going and not hurt the economy versus overtaxing and, socialism, for example. Be interesting to see what happens in New York City with some of the new candidates. And I think out in the communist state of Oregon, they have, a socialist, that, with no real experience in anything other than, hey, let's just make it all free. And, forgive me, I'm not meaning to go on a rant, but, it's a great experiment until you run out of somebody else's money, says Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, yeah. I have always equated the Halloween holiday to different economic conditions, and what's struck me is the leaving the bucket of candy out on the porch and take one seems
Yeah.
like a great idea until it's all gone, right?
Yeah.
Somebody all of a sudden snatches it all. So,
Yeah,
uh,
and Peter, then just on that theme here, as we're just having a kind of casual conversation for today's program, is Michael Dell, the founder of Dell Computers, which I have probably 9 of them that we bought last year. Is donating $6.5 billion for those Trump kids accounts, right?
yeah,
For
yeah,
new
yeah,
kids, and he's actually, and there have been several other billionaires that have come out here. And so for the people that say these people don't pay any taxes and the government should take their money, it's like, look, they give away their money, and for the good because they believe in a capitalistic society where your efforts equals results, and then with those results what you get to give away. And you think of some of the major donations. Even Warren Buffett said he's going to give his money away to charity. The
yeah,
government did not have to come in and say, hey, you know what, you worked your tail off, we're going to take it and split it amongst the people that did not.
yeah.
And so I'm obviously don't lean that far politically, but trying to find a balance to help people who genuinely need help, who, we're Americans, that's what we do. And, with this current administration, with the business mindset that they're bringing to government, obviously the speed of change is not what bureaucrats are into, and they don't really like change. They like job security. That's why they don't get any of these issues solved, because they could get voted out of office, where if they worked for us, we'd fire them in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, the Trump accounts, Chris, another interesting provision here. And of course, those don't go into effect until July 6th. So sort of some parts of that are yet to be determined. But basically, any child born in 2025 on your tax returns, you elect to set up that account, and $1,000 is going to be donated on that child's behalf. And then parents are able to continue to fund those accounts up to $5,000 a year. I mean, what a way to give a child a head start, Chris. I know that I've talked with many people about, like, can I open a Roth for my child? Is a 529 really a good way to give them a head start? But these new Trump accounts, as they are being titled right now, a great way to give a child a head start. Although I have some concerns. Number one, that it lands in the child's lap at age 18 and they have access to using it for qualified expenses with some tax advantages. But is an 18-year-old going to be responsible enough? And then, is this ultimately the beginning of a toe in the water test for sort of a privatized version of Social Security down the road. That these are kind of just my thoughts on it as we are having a casual conversation and sort of spitballing today.
Yeah, yeah, I have some very good points there, Peter. And, I think one of the key long-term advantages of that is, these people have skin in the game. They get to watch that account grow. So, hopefully
Teaching financial literacy.
Exactly. And they get a chance to, an incentive to put more money into an account that's already started for them. And, I just think, the philanthropy side of all of this is phenomenal to have, Michael Dell, an American success story, say we're going to donate $6.5 billion
Yeah,
to this. And, then the naysayers are going to say, yeah, but they get to write that off. It's like, you know what? They earned it. They paid tax on it when they earned it. And
already. Yeah.
yeah, and don't believe all those 30-second sound bites you think that the rich don't pay taxes. That's BS because I know what Peter and I pay, and we have a fair degree of success. We certainly pay our fair share, and and we're happy to do that. Well, I mean, that's part of the American dream, and that's the price of success is you get to pay your fair share to
Yeah.
keep this country uh, great again or whatever. I'm not
Yeah.
wearing a
Yeah.
MAGA hat, folks. So please, yeah,
Well,
sorry.
another way to keep more of your money, Chris, a silver lining for 2026 that we should take advantage of. Contribution limits have been raised and elevated. Chris, you mentioned you have the 401k
Yep.
for your company and your employees. Those contribution limits now up to $24,500 for regular contributions, and then we've got the catch up and the super catch up, so we can really make a lot of headway in these accounts. But how do we take advantage? And Chris, automation beats discipline every time.
Yeah.
So just automate the process, and that's the way to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, we changed our business structure so I get an actual salary. So now the 401k deduction automatically comes out of that. And, it's just a wonderful way of investing because when the market's down and you make your contribution, you buy more shares of stock if that's what you're invested in or bonds. And then when the market's up, when you make your contribution, you're buying less of those. So we call that dollar cost averaging. It happens automatic, and there's a reason that your income taxes come out of your checks because they know people would not pay them because they don't have the discipline to save the money like Peter and I have to do with running our own businesses. And I don't mean everybody by any means, but that's why they set it up automatically. And, because if you don't have it, you're not missing it.
Well, even with that opportunity, and not everybody had a pension, not everybody has access to a 401k, but even with the broad spread access to 401ks and automated type of tax advantage savings accounts, Chris, you and I both know we see it in the headlines every day. We as a society are woefully underfunded for retirement, meaning we have not had the discipline to actually take
Mhm.
advantage of these. So again, automate this process, make sure it gets done. It beats good intentions, it turns into results, and that's what we need in order
Yeah.
to have a realistic chance for creating income, facing longevity, and having continued financial success and confidence in retirement, Chris.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's why, some of this savings crisis, retirement savings crisis that we have in the country, the legislation has even allowed certain 401k plans to offer annuities inside of them. So people will have that lifetime income when they go and retire. Kind of that, you've got your traditional pension plan inside your 401k, if you will, with a certain amount of those dollars. And, lifetime income is where it's at. My happiest clients that we have very good income in place, right? Not just a big fat IRA account with $1.5 million in it, and they think they can buy anything. They cannot, But those who have rock solid pensions and Social Security, that's where they live their life, and then a lot of times their investments are just incidental. It's like, all right, if we need to do something crazy, we can take it out of the IRA, but we live off of our income that's coming in. So having that guaranteed income is just so omnipotent in going into retirement.
Yep. Well, again, we are talking with Chris McIntire, and 2026 might be the year, ladies and gentlemen, that you turn from a focus on accumulation to a focus on income planning and true financial execution, the results of all of your hard work and savings. And Chris will certainly have that discussion, help you weigh the options, arrive at the best strategies, the best asset setup and allocation to help you generate the income, give you the confidence, the financial confidence to be able to spend and enjoy. That's part of the game plan for retirement. And if you would like to get your game plan for retirement put together, pick up the phone, give a call, 419 332 0532, 419 332 0532, or visit McIntyreRetirementServices.com. Chris, I was online, just a few of the recent headlines for the predictions for 2026, and see if we find a theme here. All right, headline number one: every Wall Street strategist now predicts an equity rally in 2026. Headline number two: Morningstar sounds alarm on market hurricane. Headline number three: five reasons to be optimistic about the 2026 economy. And then headline four: Capital Group's 2026 outlook for contradictory markets. So, can we actually garner anything and make any kind of sense of what all of these predictions mean for what will actually happen in the economy?
Yeah, and it's it's the industry you and I have chosen to work within is, obviously we have variable results. We don't know where things are going to go. And if like you and I have just been talking, some of the economic policies that have been put in place, cutting taxes, oil prices being down, puts more money in people's pockets. So, there's the argument for future growth in the stock market. There's $8 trillion in money market accounts in the United States. So, there's a lot of, we call that dry powder that could certainly, if they continue to cut interest rates and those money market rates get where they're so very unattractive, some of that money may shift back into stocks and bonds that to get better rates of return. It may also go into the housing market for people that have been waiting if interest rates come down enough. So those are all bullish signs, arguments that we can make for the market to go up. On the other side, there's always bearish signs, right? I mean, the economy is never 100% aligned. We had the Magnificent Seven again in 2025, and dividend stocks did not fare nearly as well. And many retirees live off of dividend income, not the price of Nvidia stock potentially going up, for example, right? They want the reliability of those dividends. And then, we've got a lot of geopolitical issues out there for sure. What's going to happen in, Russia and Ukraine, and not just Russia and Ukraine. I mean, Russia's been cutting cables under the sea for, communications to different countries. I mean, there's a, what would you call that? There's an ungentlemanly type war. That's what Churchill would call it. War being fought within Europe without a doubt right now.
Yeah.
It's just not machine guns. It's sabotage and so on and so forth. And then you've got the China-Taiwan piece going on. That's here really been in the headlines with lately. The United States just sold a lot of military equipment to Taiwan. Taiwan's doing a lot of exercises. So these are the geopolitical risks that could certainly cause, and many other things could happen, obviously, as well, too, that cause the markets to be in upheaval.
Well, so much that we don't know. And that's why 2026 may be a year that we do want to focus on certainty, efficiency with your tax strategies, social security, sound income planning. These are things that you can control, ladies and gentlemen. Saving and investing more efficiently, spending with confidence, reducing your taxes and creating that reliable retirement income along with the healthcare plan that Chris started the show with. These are all things that are within your control and part of the game plan for retirement. The Chris McIntire and the team from McIntire Retirement Services will help you construct, put together. It is a personalized plan with long-term vision, specific to your goals, diversified strategies for how to get there, a fiduciary approach to your best interest when making those recommendations, executing and implementing that planning. And if that's what you would like for your financial progress in 2026, go ahead and get started now. That is the key, right? The journey, the long journey starts with the first step. The first step: pick up the phone, give a call to McIntire Retirement Services, have a conversation with Chris and the team, and get to know them. Let them get to know you and your goals, your situation, and then formulate that plan. 419 332 0532. 419-332-0532. Put the plan together, and then it's a year that's about execution. And that's what we want. We want to formulate the plan. We want to execute on that. And Chris McIntire and his team are there to hold your hand, help you through that process, formulate the plan, and make sure that the steps are enacted and executed upon. 419-332-0532. Chris, it was a great conversation here to start the year off. Went in a few different directions, but always a good time getting your pulse, your opinion on the matters of the day that are impacting and affecting the financial world.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. And I got a text from a buddy of mine, so I'm looking away from the camera here. So the S&P 500 since 2009, if we go from 2009 to 2021, had one negative year of 4.4%. Every other one of those years was double-digit gains, with the exception of 2015. So, there's the case for long-term investing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. There are different options for where to place your money, but to beat and surpass inflation, the market has proven to be one of the best, most effective tools available to us, Chris. And stay long term, have a disciplined approach, have a plan, and execute on it. Automate it where possible. And I know that's what you help your clients do each and every day. So again, ladies and gentlemen, that game plan for retirement, pick up the phone, give Chris McIntire a call, 419-332-0532. Chris, a pleasure. Hope you have a great 2026. I'll talk to you a lot.
Yep, sounds good, everybody. Take care out there, and don't forget to cheer for Team USA in the Olympics coming up here in hockey.
Tune into Chris McIntire's full radio program and visit McIntireRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris McIntire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.